All right, guys, so in this video, we're going to go through the major muscles of the body, okay? We are not covering all the muscles in the body. You do not need to know it. All you need to know are the major ones that contribute to movement, or maybe that are the main ones that cause the movement to occur, all right? There are 16 that we're going to go through. And if you can remember all 16 of these and their locations on the body and what they do, that's great. If you can remember their origin and insertion points, that's better. This stuff will get asked, but usually it's in an environment where you can do some more research about it. But I'll give it to you today anyway, because it does appear sometimes in your exams. So I'll try and do this top down, okay? And there's 16 of them. And if you want to draw a table in your book, you can. You don't have to draw a table. I'm just doing it like this. Yeah, let's go. All right, so our first four, starting from top down, and I'll try and put a picture somewhere. The deltoid, okay? The shoulder, okay? This muscle here, right? It originates on the scapula. It inserts onto the humerus, and the action that it causes when it flexes, because remember, muscles can only contract. They can only pull, they can't push. So when my deltoid pulls, okay, so we know it starts here and it connects here. When it pulls, like this, on the outside of my arm, it causes abduction of my arm, okay? Next one, we've got our biceps brachii. This is technically triceps brachii too, but don't worry about it. Biceps brachii, it originates on the scapula and the humerus. It inserts onto the radius here, okay? And we know that if we contract that, it's causing flexion of the elbow. Next one, we've got our triceps at the back here. Originates on the scapula and the humerus again. This time it inserts onto the ulna, which is the one underneath, so that's your elbow, and it causes extension. So it pulls this way, extension of the elbow. And the last one on here, we've got our wrist flexors. You've also got wrist extensors. They go on either side, right? Radius and ulna is where they originate. They insert onto our metacarpals in our hand, and they cause things like pronation, supination, wrist flexion. Wrist extension would be like this, which is what the extensors on here do. So anyway, today your delt, bicep, tricep, wrist flexors and extensors. Most of this stuff, before I rub this off, is common sense, okay? If you see a question like this, deltoid, origin, insertion, action, and you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't study this, I have no idea. Just stop and think about it, okay? If you're sitting there in your chair in your test, put your hand on the muscle itself. What if I start moving my arm in different directions? When do I feel my deltoid contract? Okay, it's getting shorter there. I can feel it bunching up. All right, so it must originate up here somewhere. So you just write one of these bones. And if it's going like this, well, it must be this bone. So you write that bone down. And then what action is that? You write that down. You can work this stuff out. It is, I'm not going to say it's common sense, but if you use logical thinking and problem solving, most of the time you'll be able to work this out. Next grouping. So we've got our latissimus dorsi. So latissimus dorsi is like the big triangle shaped muscle you've got at the back here. You've got two of them. So you've got one here and you've got one on this side too. All right. It originates on your spine and pelvic girdle. So in the middle of your body there. It then wraps around and inserts up here on your humerus, okay? It goes through your teres major and minor, don't worry about that stuff. Inserts through on the humerus, and the actions that it does is adduction of the arm. So if I have my arm like this and I go across my body, you can sort of feel your lat contract, okay? And the other thing it does is depression of the scapula. So the scapula is the bone at the back here, right? For you to bring your scapula down like that causes the lat to contract, all right? And like, while that's not a very obvious movement, when you do lots of things like throwing balls and whatever and push-ups and stuff like that, you are using depression and elevation of your scapula. So our traps or trapezius is this muscle here. You got one here too, okay? It originates at the base of the skull. It inserts down onto our clavicle and our scapula, and it causes elevation of the scapula, all right? So a common gym exercise would be like shrugs, doing this. Or if you just shrug your shoulders, that's your traps. And then if you go down, that's your lats. You can feel it. You can go traps, lats. Next one, pectorals, so your chest. And yes, girls, you have pectorals too. Origin point is on the sternum, so in the middle, so this bone does not move. It then inserts onto the humerus, so it wraps through here, and it causes adduction of the arm. So if you go across your body like this, you can feel your pectoral get shorter, okay? And also flexion of the arm. So remember, if we're standing in anatomical position, flexion, reducing that joint angle, is bringing it up like this, and you can feel your pectoral contribute to that. Lastly, we've got our erector spinae, all right? It originates on the upper spine, up here, inserts on the lower spine, and it is causing extension of the back. So big muscle in through the middle there. So if you go into flexion, that's a different muscle, but then if you extend upwards, that's your erector spinae, basically pulling from the bottom all the way up, okay? Cool. Okay, third set. Glutes, or glute maximus, okay? So gluteus maximus is the largest muscle in the butt. You also have a medius and a minimus, okay? So there are actually three muscles that make up the glutes. If you write glutes or glute max, you'll be fine, okay? It originates on your pelvic girdle and your lower spine, okay? It inserts onto your femur, so now we're moving down the body, and it causes extension and abduction of the upper leg. Okay, so if I'm standing in an anatomical position, I'll try and stand sideways. Standing in an anatomical position, okay, extension of the upper leg makes it go this way, so backwards. Can you see that? I'll try and get on my tippy toes. So if I'm standing straight and I go backwards, okay, that is extension of the upper leg. That would be flexion of the upper leg, extension backwards, and abduction of the upper leg. So leg out in front and you go to the side, all right? Side is abduction. Rectus abdominis, or the abs, okay? I know it's not a six-pack. I think it's like a 10. I think there's 10 of them. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. It originates on the pelvic girdle, so the bone down here, okay? It inserts onto the sternum and the lower ribs, right? And it causes flexion of the trunk. And surely all of you know that because everybody's done a sit-up, surely, okay? Flexion of the trunk. Next one, we've got our obliques, or external obliques. They're on the side here, okay? They originate on the pelvic girdle and they insert onto the upper spine and ribs, and they cause flexion of the trunk sideways, okay? Like this, or like this, like this, like this, all right? Finally, we've got the hamstrings, okay? So hamstrings are a group of muscles at the back here of your leg. They originate on the pelvic girdle and the femur itself, okay? And they insert on the tibia and the fibula. So they're moving down the leg now, and they cause flexion of the knee, which is me raising my heel to my butt, okay? Flexion, okay, of the knee. And if you just do that, if you stand still and raise your heel up to your butt, you'll feel your hamstring contract, okay? 4 to go. All right, so the last 4 you need to know today. I will add, just before I start talking about these, that many of these muscles do actually do more actions than what I've stated, and they may have also additional origin and insertion points, okay? However, these are the main things that you need to understand because, yeah, don't want to overburden you. You don't need to know everything. So, quadriceps is our muscle at the front of the leg here, okay? It's actually 4 muscles together, hence the name quadriceps, all right? It originates on our pelvic girdle and the femur, okay? They all insert down across the knee onto the tibia, and it has 2 actions. So flexion of the upper leg, so if I'm standing like this and I raise my leg up, you can feel your quad contract, okay? Your rectus abdominis also cause flexion of the upper leg. I didn't write that on the table. You can add it in if you want, up to you. Add it in. Go back and add it in. You should do that. And extension of the knee. So if I've got a bent knee and I kick it out like that, that's extension, and you should be able to feel your quadriceps contract. Next one, we've got a gastroc or gastrocnemius. So that is the large bulbous muscle at the back of your lower leg. This one, okay? This one you can sort of play with if you want. I like to. The origin of that is our lower femur. So we're up here, we cross the knee joint onto the lower femur. It inserts onto the tarsals or the heel, okay? And it causes plantar flexion. So if I point, you can see that contract, and then if you bring it up, it relaxes. Point, okay. The soleus, so the soleus, you can see it, the best place to look at it is on the out. This is really hard. The best place to look at it is on the outside of your lower leg, okay? So if you were to contract your muscle, so let's go into plantar flexion, you can see your gastroc here, and then here, there's another muscle, okay? If you push it, it's soft, but it's not a bone, okay? So that is your soleus, all right? So it sort of like sits underneath your gastroc as a supporting stabilizer. Now the soleus doesn't cross the knee joint. So it originates on the tib fib here, and it still inserts down here, and it still assists with plantar flexion. The reason I mentioned the crossing the knee joint thing is because if you go to a gym and you wanted to do some calf raises, if you do a standing calf raise, okay, because your legs are straight, it enables you to use all of these muscles, so your gastroc and your soleus, but it will mainly use the gastroc because the gastroc's a larger muscle, okay? If, however, you go to like a seated calf raise, so now my knee's bent, when I do this plantar flexion, it doesn't make a lot of sense efficiency-wise for my gastroc to actually get involved. So my soleus actually does more of the work when I'm in a bent position like that. The last one is the tibialis anterior. What's the best way to show you this? So, once again, leg up. This time, I'm going to bring my foot into dorsiflexion, and you can see a muscle that sits here, okay? So this is, it originates on our upper tibia here. It inserts down onto the tarsals, and it causes dorsiflexion, all right? So, they were the 16 major muscles and their origin, insertion, and actions that you need to know for health and movement science. Thanks.